Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my Product Chat series. My name is Rafada, and I'm so excited for this interview. Today, our guest is Carlos, the founder and CEO of the Product School. Product School is a global leader in product management training with a community of over 2 million product professionals, teaching you how to build digital products from end to end, lead cross functional teams, and land your next role or promotion. They have instructors with real world product experience working in top Silicon Valley companies that includes Google, Meta, Netflix, Airbnb, Uber, Amazon. Welcome, Carlos. How about you share your journey with us so far? And thank you again so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Love these opportunities. I heard that you joined our community recently, and that makes me happy. So quick intro on Product School, even though you did a fantastic job. We're now over 2 million members from all over the world. When I started Product School 10 years ago, I had no idea there would be 2 million product people out there. It was just a community of one, maybe 10, but that was about it. So it's good to be riding this wave and see that more and more companies, regardless of their industry, are investing in becoming more digital, and they are hiring product managers all the way up to chief product officers. My story, I'm originally from Spain. I started computer science because I was good with numbers and I like video games, but that was pretty much all I knew about engineering at that point. And I did it, but I didn't love it. I soon realized that I didn't want to spend the rest of my life coding. I appreciated having a technical background and building things from scratch. I just didn't know how else to leverage that technical background. Because nobody told me the story of like you can be a product manager, you can start your own company. I was kind of lost, and that's why I decided to come to Silicon Valley 14 years ago. Went to graduate school in UC Berkeley, studied business, which is literally the opposite of my engineering degree. And again, good experience, but I also realized that wasn't really optimized for what I wanted to do with my life. And I found that sweet spot right in between engineering school and business school. That's why I created a product school. Like that's the school I wish I had when I was getting started.
Okay. So what do you think, like when it comes to since product school is your own product right there, what obstacles did you face throughout your journey?
Well, depends on how much time we have to answer this. Well, the reality is that things never get any easier. They just get different as you scale. But there are also not shortcuts, or at least I haven't found any shortcuts. There's a combination of hard work, showing up consistently with a positive attitude, and hopefully luck shows up along the way. But like without those other previous elements, I just haven't figured this out. So when I started, the first big obstacle was to know if anyone cared about this other than me, because I was literally the product. I was the first instructor, salesperson, support person. I was doing it all.
Everything.
And I did it because it's a solution to my own problem. I've started 2 companies in education before. I care deeply about good education, connecting education with employment, not just learning for the sake of it. I never fully understood why, when I was a full-time student, they told me the story. I had to be a full-time student until I were in my mid-20s, and then at some point I would need to get a job and be a full-time professional for the rest of my life. And I been very curious about lifelong learning and being able to learn what I want from who I want whenever I want. And that was kind of the fire for me to get started. But I also didn't want to have to raise any money to test this hypothesis. So I decided to go for it and be that first product. So I taught the first cohorts in San Francisco based on my own experience. I've been building companies and products for 10 years before I started Product School. So, and the reality is that none of the stuff that I actually learned was actually being taught in traditional education.
Exactly.
And so I felt qualified to actually teach some of that, even though there were a lot of people saying, you cannot teach product management. This is just for visionaries. You need to be born with certain talents and you cannot learn the hard skills. And I was like, well, you know what? I think you can learn about it. There's a big part of product management that is science. And actually, if you break it down, it's not that complicated. Like creating a roadmap, running an A/B test, creating a prototype, or doing some of the different use cases that product managers use on a daily basis. It's not that complicated. You just need to have the right guidance and opportunity to get to practice. And that was pretty much the origin of the company and the first challenge. As we started getting some traction and some people started showing up, the next big challenge was, okay, how do I take this from 1 to 10? Meaning, how do I start having more and more classes? How big can this really be?
Right.
And at some point, I just couldn't scale myself by just teaching more classes. Yes, I was teaching some classes on weekends, some classes on weeknights, but at some point, like we had more demand, you know. So the next big challenge for us was exactly that, like how to scale myself while maintaining quality. And that was also one of the reasons why I didn't want to raise any money. I wanted to bootstrap. I wanted to ensure that the very few students that were joining us would have the best possible experience, would actually leverage this training to go out there and get product management jobs or product promotions. And little by little, you know, it's been a 10-year overnight success, if you will. And again, now, as you know, 10 years forward, there are other challenges, which is, okay, now that we are 2 million people, like how do we continue scaling our impact while maintaining quality? And some of the tactics that help me go from 1 to 10 or even 10 to 100 don't scale, and we need to use new tactics. And that's part of the fun and part of the game.
Yeah, like you just mentioned about like upscaling, and product management is like ever changing. Like before, I would say at least 5, 6 years ago, I never heard about what product management even is. I never knew a product manager even exists. And right now, there's like a huge hype of everyone wants to get into product management right now. With this upscaling and with this like ongoing changes, how do you keep up with just like growing?
I think this is the best time in history to build digital products. I wish I had known half of what I know today when I was in school. Literally, I also didn't know about product management when I was even 25 years old, right? So, and now we see people even in school, in high school or in college saying, I want to be a product manager. I think that's awesome. And part of it is because now they have role models. You look at these big companies today, they have a chief product officer. Not too long ago, the highest ranked product person in the organization would report into marketing or technology. So it was a different type of mindset. Product was understood as a cost center and not as a revenue generator. So typically, like marketing or sales would interact with the customer, would sell something, and then would send the proposal over the fence to the IT folks, engineers, product designers to build something.
Right.
Those days have changed, right? Like now, product as a function, it's a revenue generator. Product is interacting with customers in many ways, and the chief product officer is at the table. It's not more of like a shared function as part of a different one. All of this is definitely helping the next generation to be more inspired and eager to work in product. Clearly, the job salaries is helping. Like being a product manager is a really well paid job for a good reason. It's hard and it's really high impact.
Yeah. Completely agreed. You already mentioned like some parts of it, but what's your overall definition of product management? Because for everyone, it's like completely different.
It is and it isn't, in the sense that there are some elements that stay true, and part of the art or the magic of product is actually adapting that definition to your context, right? Like being a product manager at let's say a voice recognition device is different than being a product manager at an e-commerce website. But the fundamentals are true. So as a product manager, you are at the intersection of everything, really. Not just engineering, design, and marketing. These days, a product manager is it's a forcing function, it's a multiplier for those three functions, plus customer success, data, user research, sales. It's literally the person who is in the center, making sure that all these other teams are going in the right direction. And it's not just about being a good communicator and inspiring people with your vision and letting others execute. You're also in the kitchen executing with them. At least the best product managers that I know, they are into the details. They are not just setting the vision, they are also in the day-to-day helping others do whatever it takes to remove roadblocks.
Completely agreed. So when it comes to, that actually comes with experience as well. Um, Even like, for example, when I was a associate product manager, at the first day, I had no clue about it and I learned with experience. And I think that comes with experience as well. I know a lot of people that must be hearing this interview, they are like early in their careers, either they're aspiring product manager or associate product managers. For them, how do you suggest them like to learn over the skill? Like I know that on the job training is definitely possible, but what other things that they should do to learn those things?
Well, that's what we do at product school.
Yeah,
So my best piece of advice is to really take our training. And the reason why I say that is because we went from pretty much no content
yeah,
back in the day when we started the company to too much content.
yeah.
Right now, there's too much noise. Like you go to Google and type, what are the top skills for product managers, or how should I learn product management? This is too much information. It's really hard to filter what's good quality versus just not. So it gets to a point again, and free resources, and this is helpful just to give you an general understanding
Yeah,
of the situation, but it's not enough to really help you go deep and ensure that what you're doing is the right thing.
yeah,
And that's why this curated training that we do is, in my opinion, best possible option for people to upskill. Because the way we do it is, first of all of our instructors are not teachers. These are all real world practitioners that are
yeah.
working as product leaders at Google, Meta, Netflix, Airbnb, and other top companies that are running product organizations, product-led organizations. The other piece to it is we do it live online. So this is not just a series of videos that you can consume without any type of accountability.
Yeah.
We do this in live online in very small cohorts, only 20 students at a time. So the
Okay.
instructor, it's really your mentor. It gets to know you by your name. It's there giving you feedback. You are building. You are not just passively listening to someone show you a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
And that relationship that is being created with the instructor as well as with their peers continues after
Exactly.
graduation.
Yes.
And the third piece is we also, there's a lot of companies that come to us because they're hiring product managers.
Mhm.
And we now have access to a really good base of high quality product managers. So we also help them access those opportunities, because ultimately I believe that best education is the education that connects you with employment, that can show a return on investment.
Completely agreed. And you mentioned somewhat about like networking as well. With this current like job market, a lot of people who want to get into product management, it's not only like you apply and then you get an interview. It's very, very difficult right now. What do you think about networking?
I think networking is complicated word. It's a loaded term, and in my opinion, it's overrated. Uh, of course, it's good to know people.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's not just about knowing people for the sake of it. It's not about having followers or saying, oh, I ran into someone at a coffee shop. It's, in my opinion, it's about your reputation. Your reputation is your biggest asset. And you build your reputation by doing good things. So your reputation should speak for yourself. And of course, if you have good reputation, you've been working the right way, your previous companies, you know how to lead those companies the right way, you can have your previous managers vouch for you. That's the type of networking that is really high quality.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, when you are applying for a job, um, most companies will want to do some reference checks,
Yeah.
front door reference or back channel reference. And they will want to talk to your previous managers or your manager's manager and some of your peers.
Yeah.
And those type of conversations are the ones that really matter, right? And these people are putting their reputation on the line, so they are not going to lie. And that to me is what is the essence of it, is doing the right thing consistently, is building your reputation and not burning
Yes.
bridges.
Very important. Thank you so much for sharing that. In terms of like the entire journey of a product manager, starting from like maybe associate product manager, can you explain the way how they can make their way above?
Yes, and this is fascinating because finally there is a career ladder, and there are multiple options within that career ladder.
Yeah.
Back in the day, when there was no chief product officer, I remember when I started a company, a lot of people would say, okay, so when I become a product manager, then what? Right. And a lot of companies didn't even have the next level. They
Yeah.
would just have one level called product manager. Congratulations, that's it. You're going to be stuck for the rest of your life. Well, that is not true anymore. Now there's an entire career ladder. Usually starts at the, as you mentioned, associate product manager level.
Mm.
Next step up is called product manager. Some companies might not have an APM level, so they start directly from the product manager level. The next natural step is called senior product manager.
Okay.
And all three roles are individual contributor roles for the most part. So you are most likely not managing anyone directly. You're still collaborating very closely with engineering, design, marketing, and other business functions as an IC.
Yeah.
And then the next level up is where you start having two different options. You can continue growing as an individual contributor. Typically, that title is called principal product manager or lead product manager. And that's a totally fair path because that's for people who enjoy building and being in the kitchen.
Yes.
You know? And they are highly rewarded for that from a financial standpoint, as well as responsibilities and impact. And then there are other people who prefer to take the people manager path, at which point you start managing people directly. You start having more authority, not just influence.
Yeah.
So that title is typically called group product manager. Next level up is called director of product, senior director. So when you start as a group PM, technically you start managing other product managers. And that's because the company has multiple products,
right.
and then you are coordinating maybe more of a portfolio than just a particular product.
Okay.
And then if you keep going up, you have a VP of product and chief product officer.
Yeah.
And by the way, not all the companies have all of these titles. They may skip some level. So it's important to have that conversation to understand how they think about their own competency model. Because it's not just about the title. It's also like, what are those competencies required at each level that are needed in order to continue moving up?
Yeah, that makes sense, because if you're asking for promotion, you should know, what categories they have, what they're expecting from you at the end of the day. This is something that a lot of people ask. Does product manager needs to be technical?
That's a myth. And maybe that was true, 10 years ago or so, when most of the PM, there was less understanding of the role of the product manager, and most of the PMs back then would actually come from a technical background. But that is not true anymore. The same way, anticipating a potential myth that you might bring up, you don't need an MBA either. In fact, what you studied 10, 15 years ago becomes less and less relevant. What becomes more and more relevant is what you've built after you graduated, or what else you learned while you were working. And I think the programs like Product School that you can take on the side, weeknights or weekends, without putting your life on hold, can show a lot of credibility as well as skills for a potential employer. So the reason why I say that you don't need to have a technical background, and by the way, any technical people listening, don't kill me. I also have a technical background, and it served me well, and it's definitely going to serve you well. But these days, it's more of an icing on the cake, because the work that PMs are doing is much more business oriented. What I mean by this is that it's not just about building the thing. It's ensuring that the thing that you are building is actually driving business outcomes, and the market is adopting it, and users are using it, and hopefully are paying for it. So what's becoming more and more relevant these days for PMs is to start understanding how their product is driving revenue, is driving business outcomes. And also we're seeing that the tools that we have these days are much more visual. Like back in the day, truly, you needed to know how to code in order to build a website, or you needed to know how to run SQL in order to do a data analysis. These days, it's a whole new set of tools created specifically for product managers, where you do not have to have any technical background in order to build a website, in order to run a data analysis, in order to create a prototype, or in order to create a roadmap. And I think that is empowering a whole new generation of creators that can build faster and better products.
I completely agree. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's very helpful throughout of the journey of product managers. If anyone, what do you think is an ideal student who wants to come into product school?
So the idea, we have different levels of certification.
Okay.
So what we call a product manager certification is for the aspiring product manager. These are professionals with some experience, let's say 3 to 5 years of experience. Could be in engineering, could be in consulting, could be in design, or any other field. Okay. And they are ready to switch careers. So they're looking for that first product manager job.
Okay.
The other level of certification we have is called product leader certification. And that's exclusively for existing product managers who are working in an individual contributor capacity. And they want to get that next promotion as a people manager. So let's say a PM or a senior PM that wants to become a group PM or a director. because the skills required are different, are very different depending
Yeah.
on where you are in your career.
Okay, that makes sense. So just curious to know if a person is coming as an aspiring product manager to product school, do you do like a capstone project or any project that shows the future employer that they have done any type of, work in product management?
Yes,
Okay.
and more. Like the way we teach is by building. So at the end of the day, if you get a job as a product manager, you're going to be building.
Yeah.
So that the way that's created is you're thrown into the Shark Tank since
Okay.
day one, and you are treated as a product manager, and you are being assigned to create a new feature for an existing product. And
Okay.
we're going to go through an entire product life cycle or product development cycle,
Okay.
where we start trying to understand the market opportunity and validate those initial hypotheses by talking with customers, gathering data, external or internal, and then framing some of those hypotheses and documenting them to get some buy-in from other stakeholders.
Okay.
Once they're being phrased, we're going to define the success criteria. And people will call it OKRs or success metrics. The point is, we are going to need to start defining, okay, what does success look like if
Yeah.
we actually build this thing instead
Right.
of building something and then trying to figure it out if it works or not.
Yeah.
And then we go into the road mapping phase and then try to create structure around what are the different initiatives that need to be created and how we're going to plan, what are the dependencies that don't get us stuck in the process. We are obviously, it's not about creating something in a waterfall style, but there is definitely some planning that is required upfront, mostly for your engineers, designers, and other people involved in building.
Yes.
After that, we go into the prototyping phase, where actually students get to build something using tools such as Figma, and they start testing those prototypes with real users, getting real feedback and trying to save designers time. So they don't, they don't just throw a document to a designer and expect that the designer is going to come up with that perfect solution. And there's a similar types of artifacts for engineers, typically called product requirements documents. So we also break down the different initiatives we put in the roadmap into specific user stories and try to be very, very granular to understand the details that go into the product, at least for that first iteration. And what are some of the details that would be nice to have, but maybe we're going to have to put on hold for future iterations based on what happens once we ship that first version. We guide students through experimentation. We get them to do different type of tests, which is also a really good way for PMs to learn how to iterate in real time. And we go into product launch, like literally getting all the steps related to shipping something to someone and then testing it with market, because there is no replacement for testing something with market. So we try to do the entire life cycle at least once. And that usually takes around 75% of the time. The other 25% of the time is used for career support. So I always tell students, especially the aspiring PMs, that learning how to get a job is as important as learning how to do the job itself. Otherwise, you will never have the opportunity to prove that. So spend a lot of time with reviewing resumes, LinkedIn profiles, practicing mock interviews, helping students put together their own portfolio and position themselves in a way that a hiring manager is going to want to have a conversation with them.
I love that. That's like a completely 360-degree experience of product managers. I really like that. In terms of any entry level, what advice would you have for anyone starting out, maybe a recent graduate, they don't have like much experience, maybe they have like internship experience. What advice would you have for them to get into product management?
Well, the good thing, as I mentioned before, the reason why I said that this is the best time in history to build digital products is also because it's the time that there are the most amount of companies hiring product managers or hiring product people, I should say, because the product team is not just made out of product managers. Now we're seeing emerging roles such as product marketing. We're also seeing other roles that are close to the product managers, such as business analysts, technical program managers. All of those roles are part of the product team. And depending on the size of the company, depending on the experience of the candidate, sometimes it's okay to join that team, maybe with a different title, because that gets you going. That makes you be part of the product team. I get that everybody wants a top job, right? And we'll get there. But sometimes it's good to look at this as a marathon, so you don't get discouraged and you start getting some quick wins and get ready in order to actually get that top job, maybe in a few more steps.
Yeah, I think the stepping stone is very, very important. It's just a stepping stone to get to product management with the current market. In terms of what do you think is the biggest myth about product management or biggest misconception?
Well, I mentioned a few. I think the one around you need to have a technical background
Yeah,
in order to become a product manager is not true. I also don't believe having an MBA is a
yeah,
guarantee to make you a great product manager. I also mentioned that product managers are not born, product managers
yeah.
are made. You can learn the skills to become a great product
Yes.
manager.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that. What do you think? How does the product school is different from other boot camps?
Well, we are the first mover in the space. We created the first school 10 years ago when nobody believed
Yeah,
in us, when nobody believed in the role of the product manager. I remember at that time, there were a lot of coding schools.
yeah,
They were teaching people how to become a software engineer, really.
yeah,
And some of them were really successful. I mean, there's a lot of people that went through those programs that are working as software engineers. So that I believe in that model of
yeah,
lifelong learning, learning from the best in a very condensed way, very advanced, and connect those learnings to employment. So the model of the coding schools is something that I inspired me. Also because I come from a coding background, and I
yeah.
know that not all the people who go through coding schools actually want to be coders for the rest of their life.
Exactly.
So I built that first non-coding school basically,
Okay.
and we decided to focus exclusively on product management. That's something that might sound counterintuitive for a lot of founders as they try to scale their business, because why not branching out
Yeah,
and teaching marketing, UX design, data analytics, cybersecurity, and other detail skills that are very, very important. So we
yeah,
made the strategic decision to be the best in the world at one thing, which is product management, and go as deep as possible. So we can be recognized by students as well as the instructors as the platform for people who care about product. The same way that people who care about other things, there might be other alternatives for
yeah,
them. I think thinking about your customer, obsessing about that particular customer is important, and that should come with some trade-offs, because the same way it's important to define who your customer is,
yeah.
we also had to define who our customer is not. In fact, even within the product management umbrella, when we started the company, we were just focused on aspiring product managers. We only had one certification. As the function evolved and became much more in demand, we also layered more certifications for the existing product
Years, yeah.
managers that want to keep growing. And we recently launched a certification on product marketing, because now we're seeing a lot of companies hiring product marketing
Marketers
managers.
as well, yeah.
Exactly. So there's still opportunity to grow and branch out, but I think without losing our identity, which is
Yeah,
product.
I love that. What do you think is the future of product management?
I hosted a conference last week in
Yeah,
San Francisco called ProductCon.
yeah.
And my talk was literally that. It was the future of product. We publish a report every
Okay.
year titled The Future of Product. And it's based on data that we gather from our community and other sources to really get ahead of the game and show those insights to everybody interested in that. It's absolutely free and available. So anyone can get it from our website. I'll just give you the quick summary. What are the top 3 things that we see for 2024? I'm going to try to be as specific as
Okay.
possible and not try to go into like 10 years from now. I mean, I can also tell you what I think is going to
Yeah.
happen 10 years from now, but like what's going to happen in 2024, especially as like people are trying to navigate
Yes.
forecast. Number one is that product teams are becoming much more accountable for growing revenue, not just user value.
Yeah.
Long gone are the days where PMs would say, well, we're just going to think about the long-term user value. I mean, and that's important, but there has to be a connection to business outcomes in the short term. That's
Yes.
why product leaders are thinking strategically around their roadmaps. And there is a diversified portfolio of bets where you want to put some bets in long term, as you
Yeah.
should, but there's still going to be a higher concentration of bets related to the short term in order to ensure viability for our products as we navigate these economic uncertainty times. The second, and by the way, and a lot of CPOs are now acting like general managers and starting to
Oh,
own P&L, which is
okay.
incredible. And I think that's an amazing move. As more companies are now leveraging product-led growth to generate revenue,
Yeah.
now there's opportunities even for B2B products to have users pay for something. without interacting with the sales team. So when that revenue is being generated through the website, like the product team is being more accountable for that type of revenue generation, the same way they're accountable for qualifying the right opportunities for sales teams. This is not about being sales led or product led. So that's number one. Number two is the product teams are at the intersection of everything. Long gone are the days where product would be, as I mentioned before, part of IT and behind the fence, and would work just with engineers and designs, expecting that marketing and sales would sell something and then they would go and ship. Now product is literally at the intersection of marketing, design, sales, user research, data. And it's in many cases like the business card for a lot of users, because a lot of users are now being able to use a product before they decide to purchase it. It's a lot of companies that are offering free trials or freemium plans. So product is way more strategic. Starts from the top with a chief product officer, but it also trickles down to every other part of the organization, including customer success, because part of revenue is not just about generating net new business. It's also about retaining your existing business. And in many cases, and in many cases, helping them upgrade. So customer success plays a key role in the relationship with the product team. That's why product is literally at the intersection of every single function. And the third, and not least, in my opinion, is that acquiring top product talent is still really hard. It's not that, because there's a lot of demand for product and because maybe the markets are not as positive as they used to be. Now, top product leaders are desperate looking for another gig. Top product talent is really hard to acquire, and it's also very, very well paid. So even if companies can afford to go to market and start trying to attract this type of talent, it's just not a sustainable strategy if there is not enough retention. Because all of these people can switch companies quickly. There are way too many options for them, and they all look very juicy. So companies are thinking harder now in terms of retention of top talent, and they are investing more in learning and development. But not just any type of training, not just, hey, here's a bunch of videos, go check them out, and that will keep you happy and engaged. No, we're talking about the type of custom training, advanced training that is going to help those product teams upskill. Because if they upskill, it's better for them, but it's also way cheaper for the companies. Now they're retaining talent, and they are making the talent more efficient than trying to have to go to market right now and start throwing money at the problem.
Perfect. I love all of those points. I can relate to. I was looking at LinkedIn a few days ago, and there was a person who used to work at OpenAI. I'm sure you would have heard about it. A person who used to work at OpenAI got laid off, and within 3 days, within posting off like on LinkedIn, he got hired at Microsoft. Because he was a leader within AI, and that's so important. And he got laid off, and he got hired at Microsoft. So it's very, very important to retain those employees out there.
I mean, it literally happened to the CEO of OpenAI, right? Like, and the president and co-founder, they both got hired by Microsoft right after the board fired them. Now they're back to OpenAI, by the way. But we also saw Salesforce CEO posting, "We are ready to hire anyone from OpenAI, match their salary, give them a good equity package." So it's like such a talent war out there, especially for top talent. And there's always going to be a neighbor with a bigger house, right? There's always going to be a competitor with more money. So just throwing money at the problem, trying to do that type of fight, is just not sustainable. And that's why companies are trying to get smarter in terms of retention mechanisms and how to keep that talent, not just here for the sake of it, but also upskill that talent.
Exactly. Just the last few questions. Actually, just the last question. I was wondering, what are your thoughts, if anyone who wants to get into product management or anyone who's looking for a promotion, what would be your last thoughts or advice on them for them?
Well, I think I already talked about the training that we provide and how it's helping people either get the first product job or their next product promotion. Maybe one thing I can add, just to manage expectations, is that this is hard. Like the reason why there are a lot of companies offering a lot of money to product managers, it's because this is a high impact role. And as probably everybody knows, it's very competitive.
It is.
So no book, no podcast interview is enough. You really have to put in the work consistently. And I encourage people that are listening to this and trying to get that first PM job to not get discouraged by those first interviews or those first emails they're sending that maybe are not getting the answer that they want, or maybe not even an answer,
Yeah.
because it's part of the process. And obviously there are ways that can help you accelerate the achievement, training, coaching, other mechanisms. So I think not just not giving up is important,
Yeah.
but also doing something about it. Just thinking about what else can I do? Because if you keep doing the same thing, why would you get a different result, right?
Exactly.
That to me is what gives me. I mean, I give that advice to myself as I build my company, as you know, as I grow my kids. I try to explain them the value of hunger, and not just hunger, but also hunger and doing something about it. So hopefully you can also have more control over your own destiny.
Yes, love that. Also, whoever is listening, Product School has like almost 95% of the resources, which is completely free. Make sure to check that out. And there's amazing, amazing paid courses as well. So do check that out. And I recently joined Slack community, which Carlos was mentioning about. It's an amazing community. Do make sure you join. There's a lot, hundreds, thousands of people who are professionals in already like product management. You can get advice from them. You can get your resume reviewed, so many more things. Again, Carlos, thank you so, so much. This was extremely helpful, very insightful, and thank you again for your time.
It was fun. Thank you for having me.
For sure. Thank you so much.